Are you getting ready for your interview and need a few last-minute tips on interview questions and answers? And in this particular case, to understand the question related to your weaknesses? If so, you are in the right place. What are your greatest weaknesses is the most hated job interview question by candidates, but it is still being asked in many interviews. The majority of job seekers are not sure how to approach this question. So in this video, I will share clear guidelines to help you structure your interview response and give you full answers and responses to weaknesses-related examples, which you'd be able to use in your interview. I'm Marat from EMMOTION, myemotion.com, human resources consulting agency. Look me up on LinkedIn. Please subscribe to my channel below and hit the little bell so you won't miss out on the latest career and personal growth content. Also, thumb up the video if you feel it was helpful. There are several ways to answer what are your greatest weaknesses or your biggest weaknesses question. I personally prefer rephrasing it to what are your most important development areas. It's easier to relate to, and it doesn't make a reference to someone being weak in any way. This weaknesses question can also be asked in other similar ways. What would your manager or colleagues describe as your biggest weakness? Which tasks or duties do you struggle with the most? Which difficulties and issues have arisen in your current role? Is there any area of your skill set that you feel needs work? From my expertise working in recruitment for over 10 years, I tend to ask this question to candidates which make a big and noticeable effort in selling themselves during the interview. Sometimes it is done without even realizing it. This question can easily trip up a lot of people because no one wants to talk about the less impressive part of their skills or personality. However, you never say that you don't have any development areas. I've had candidates saying this to me during interviews, and the impact is exactly the same as saying that you don't have any ability to learn and to grow. Important checklist before we proceed to full examples. Analyze your development areas. It should be something related to your professional competencies and skills. Answers like, I just don't do enough exercise, or I don't speak a certain language well, would sound just as if you are trying to avoid the question. Don't try to disguise a strength as a weakness, like I work too hard, or I'm a perfectionist. These are ridiculous because as a recruiter you hear them very often. The hiring manager will see you through and might label you as someone dishonest. Be honest, but don't raise any red flags. Giving an honest answer is really important here. If you make something up, you might not be able to handle all the follow-up questions. Pick a weakness acceptable for the role. Don't say that you are awful with numbers if you are actually applying for an accounting job. Explain the measures you took to correct this skill. The first part of your answer should reflect that you detected this weakness. But the second part is how you had actively been working on it. The weakness needs to be something that you could improve through a personal effort. So here are 4 examples which could be easily adapted to your profile. There is also a bonus example for candidates without any professional experience. Example for a position dealing with numbers and data.
I never had much experience working directly with clients. That's why my client-facing communication skills definitely need some work. I'm much more comfortable digging into the data and providing the analysis rather than talking about it with the client. I realized that the experience of working with clients directly would be a big help to the way that I present my analysis. So I have used every chance to take an opportunity to talk to a client, and I will continue to improve this area of expertise. At the beginning of my career, I was overwhelmed with the level and amount of work expected from me. Projects came in at the same time, and I didn't schedule or plan each of the stages properly. Eventually, This made me overlook certain mistakes, which I detected further on. Since then, I attended a number of time management seminars, and I have found my workload much more manageable. Each time I'm more productive and detailed, and I continue to work on it. Public speaking is an area which I should still work on. When I started college, it was a real problem. I was just terrified of doing it, and I ended up ruining my speeches a few times. I decided to take a small step of promising myself that I would speak up in front of small groups, for example in a class. Then I worked up to taking public speaking class, which made a big difference. Now, even though I get nervous, I feel like it is something that doesn't hold me back. Recently, I gave a speech at a conference. I was still shaking during my speech, but it went great and I received a really good feedback in the end. I plan on continuing to seek out opportunities to improve in this area. Sometimes I can be a little too honest when I provide feedback to coworkers. My personality is naturally straightforward, and most of my colleagues really value that. However, I learned that there are times on the job when more diplomacy is required. I took a training class on how to communicate with power, and it really opened my eyes to the need of communicating differently with different people. Now I'm much better at providing constructive and inspiring feedback, even if it doesn't always come naturally. As a student, I thought that taking as much responsibility as possible will help me learn and grow faster. Eventually, it turned into not delivering any of my projects on time. I was simply stretched thin in too many areas, and with not enough time to deliver with quality. I learned that I'm not at my best when I have too many priorities. Now I'm doing my best to reduce some of the less important extracurricular activities and focus on delivering my academic projects with higher quality. This ability to prioritize also helps me in my recent internship. I had several deadlines that were due last week, so I spoke to my supervisor to prioritize the delivery schedule, to focus on both the timing and the quality of the delivery. In the end, all 3 projects were delivered with great results.
Keep it short and to the point. Practice a couple of times before the interview to make a stronger impact and to answer with confidence. Thank you very much for watching. Feel free to share this video with whoever you think it would be useful to. Please subscribe to my channel below and check out my next video coming up.